Welcome to Igniting the Spark. I'm your host, Stephanie James. Listener, it's so wonderful to have you here with us today. I'm just sending so much love from my heart to yours. And as we do so often on this show, to begin with, let's just pause for a moment. Let's just take that moment. If you're not driving, put one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and just breathe yourself back into your body in this moment. So often we spend so much energy and attention, we're giving everything away, and it's so beautiful to allow ourselves to become re-embodied, to literally breathe ourselves into our bodies and take up residence behind our own eyes and within our heart. When we do that, we really feel that incredible connection to the divine, more deeply to ourselves and to one another. So, listeners, I have such an incredible guest today. I am so excited about this. It's a miracle we got to the interview because we were having such a delightful conversation and such a great connection. I have with me today Alisha Doss, and she's an angel communicator, speaker, ordained minister, and spiritual teacher known for her ability to perceive and articulate the angelic language, helping people reconnect with their divine lineage and higher purpose. With more than 30 years of experience, she has led 500 seminars plus worldwide, and she hosts Angels and Masters on SparkTV and the Live Your Love podcast. Her background as an actress, DJ, and dancer continues to shape her creative approach to communication and teaching, and I'm so thrilled to have her here with us today. Welcome to Igniting the Spark, Alisha.
Thank you. I am beyond delighted to be here. And yes, we've already had a beautiful conversation. So I think it's only going to deepen, and we'll just invite a few million angels to join us.
That sounds perfect. That sounds perfect. And I really want to start with this question to you because I know we were just talking about our books. And I know when I was doing research for my book, it was saying something about, the Bible talks about angels. I can't remember the number now. This has been a couple years since my research, but it was, so many times, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And yet somehow when we talk about angels now, people are like, "What?" What is your experience with how you really approach people to say, "Hey, angels are still here. They're still with us. This is not something new, and it really is happening now."
Well, Stephanie, I love this question. I can tell we're going to have such a deep conversation. So, yes, angels are mentioned in the Bible almost 300 times. And yet, you would not believe how many times I keep getting the same quote from the Bible, given to me as a reason to not connect with angels. But here's the funny thing. So that quote is, worship God only, don't worship angels. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing. That was said by an angel. That was said twice by an angel. John, both times, John the beloved, the disciple of Jesus, fell at the angel's feet in worship. And the angel said, "Get up." Both times said, "Get up. We're made of the same source. Do not worship me. Do not worship angels. Worship God only." So people quote this to me, and I'm like, dude, an angel said that. Angels are saying, no, it's not about worshiping angels. Angels are one with God. They're a way to tangibilize God. They're God's arms and ears and mouthpiece. So for us to connect directly with God, the jig would be up on this separation thing, right? We couldn't believe then that I'm here and you're there and we're not all one. And, there's a purpose, there's a purposefulness to this seeming separation from God. There's a purposefulness to this level. And if we were directly connect to God, we go, this is chimera, this is illusion. Right. So we have these intermediaries to God, and they go through all religions. You can tell I'm passionate about this question. I get it in all forms, not usually so polite. Usually it's like, people really challenging me, and I love it. Because I have a rare disease in my family, which is that everybody's an MD. I mean, you're not allowed to have any genetics close to me without being a medical doctor. And I was, of course, pre-med. So I have this scientific mind. And so I'm a bit of a nerd. So I'm going to quote some studies, a recent study by the NORC and the AP, the Associated Press, very not dry, but very objective
Mm.
sources, right? 69% of US adults believe in angels. More than believe in God, Stephanie,
Wow,
right?
wow.
So when you have something that everyone believes in, or just about, they're in Christianity, of course, both Old and New Testament. They're in Judaism all through the Kabbalah. They are in Islam. The Archangel Gabriel dictated the Quran to Muhammad in a beautiful language. Muhammad was illiterate. I think that was the angelic language. They're in Buddhism. As mentioned to you, I'm half Indian, half English, like straight down the line. So I was raised Buddhist and Christian. And yes, you can be both. And talk about becoming fierce, I make statements like that, and then I kind of duck. And but it's true. And so they're in Hinduism, they're in Buddhism. I just had a beautiful conversation with a Buddhist Roshi the other day. And they are so when you have something that goes through different cultures, different ages, socioeconomic factors, different religions, no religion. So because as mentioned, atheists believe in angels, but not God. So, there's gotta be something to it because this world doesn't we don't agree on much, do we? Right? But we agree on angels. And so I say to people, clearly they're real, but what are they really? They're really, and then I will walk people through experiencing an angel right there, wherever it might be, if it's in the street, if it's on a TV show, if it's on a podcast. Invariably, they do because angels are very accessible. That was a long answer to your short question.
No, it's a great answer, and I love that, and so I wanna know more from you about yeah, what is that definition, if you will, of angel? What is an
Yeah.
angel?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so angels, it literally means messenger of God. An archangel is a high angel, or El means of God. And so they are one with God. They are extrusions from God, spirit, universal life force, whatever we want to call God, the divine, the higher power, that which animates all life. They are extensions of God into this level. If we were to say, well, what do they look like? If you put both your hands up, and I know we have listeners rather than viewers, if you put your hands up like you're going to pray, and then you just separate your hands, there's a space between your hands, and you start to feel that tingling and that presence. And I say, that's what angels look like, the space between your hands. They sound like the space between notes. Their essence, they're ethereal, but they are very perceivable. So they're messengers of God, and they're God's reflections, representatives into this level going, hey, look up. This is not all there is, but they're very accessible. They're awesome. And the phrase that they say most in the Bible is fear not. Why?
Mm,
Because when an archangel, even an angel, comes into your presence, it's like, whoa, this is intense. And so to me, they're really shortcuts to God consciousness.
I love that. I love that phrase, and they're shortcuts because
They make spirit, the divine, accessible. They make the Mother, Father, God accessible. They are very knowable. I had never, in all my 35 years, clearly I started when I was a toddler, all my 35 years of professional work, um, I never had an experience where someone has not experienced an angel if they give me, 3 or 4 minutes. So, they're very accessible and they're a shortcut to God consciousness. Not angels. Angels are in a collective. They don't have free will. When they evolve to an archangel, then they have free will. When they are a great archangel, of which they are very high, very pristine, highest of the highest of the highest of angels, the oldest, most ancient, they help us experience the presence of God. It's pretty inevitable. And I say pretty because, well, I haven't talked to everybody. But in all these decades, people do experience it. It's like if God kind of drew the curtain back and put her hand into the world, and we went, oh my God, I see the fingertip of God. So that's what an angel is. They're a perceivable manifestation of God.
Mm.
And the shortcut to God consciousness is these great archangels, which I do go into a lot more depth in my book, Your Angelic Ancestry. But these great archangels are really more beingness than beings. And so we can experience them and still maintain this, come right back into the body, very functional. But they take us out of ourselves and coming into our own angelic ancestry takes us out of the narrative of this is all there is, right? And into our own celestial nature.
Beautiful. Yeah. And so I wanna definitely talk more about your angelic, ancestry, and I wanna know a little bit about your history as far as when did you start experiencing angels? What was that like for you? How did this incredible work, if you call it work, this gift, this knowingness come to you?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So, when I was 4 years old, I had a very traumatic event occur for about a year, and I started speaking to these beautiful monolithic beings in silver and white light in another language. And as a child, the veil hasn't dropped. The veil drops around age 7. I was around 4. You don't question it. And that was so real to me. And what it did is it gave me a profound love of and respect for the metaphysical. So I never questioned it really after that. But I was in rural Indiana. And so when I started telling, because these angels, when they were speaking to me in the angelic language, it gave me a clairvoyance. And I started talking about things I couldn't know as a young child. And it scared people in Indiana. They called me a child witch, which is now would be okay, but not then. And and um and they just didn't understand. So I shut down my sight. But when I was around 9, I had an experience. We're getting a little out there, but I will ground it. There's my scientific background coming in. But I had an experience with an extraterrestrial, and it was very beautiful, very positive experience, somewhat similar in as to the experience in Disclosure Day of the child. And and they said, "Open up your sight, but don't tell anybody, not till you leave home." And so
Mhm.
that's what I did. And so I would, look at the auras around people and talk to the angels, but I didn't tell a soul, not a soul, until I left home at 15. I went to
Mhm.
boarding school and ran away from home. And then I had more freedom. And then, especially when I left for good at 18, then I started opening up again to that deep awakening. And it has been going on ever since.
Wow. So beautiful. Yeah. It's incredible how Don Miguel Ruiz says that we are domesticated.
Mm,
And I think that's so true,
great.
how
Yes.
we're domesticated out of these experiences.
Mhm.
Um, because I too would have these incredible bright lights show up at my door of my bedroom, at 6 years old, and it happened over and over. And, so interesting.
Were
I
you
at
ever
one
afraid of them, or did you
I
just
wasn't afraid of them.
Yeah.
Um, and what was even more interesting, and I do write about this in my last book, that when my daughter was 10 years old, and that's past the time you would,
Mhm.
maybe experience something like that. She was at my mother's home and had spent the weekend with my mother. And the one thing that was remarkable for me is when I would see those lights, one was a taller, bigger one, and then there were 2 shorter ones. And the 3 of them, they wouldn't come in my room, but they just stood there. And so my daughter, I pick her up from this weekend with my mother, and we're actually with my I had just had a baby, we're with my other daughter's nanny,
Mhm.
and so we're all talking, and I said, "Well, how was the weekend?" And she said, "Well, mama, these 3 lights were at my bedroom door." Well, she was staying in my exact childhood bedroom,
Oh.
and I said to my nanny, I said, "Okay," I said, "Acacia, hold on." Um, and I whispered into my nanny's ear, "When I was a little girl, I would see 3 lights, and there was 1 big one and 2
Mm,
little ones." And I said, "Honey, what did it look like?" And she goes, "Well, mama, there were 2 little ones like a kid and then 1 big one like a grown up."
mm,
And so it was like I mean, these are the things I always say, some of the stuff we just can't make up. It's like there's no way. I had
mhm,
never spoken to her about that.
mhm,
There's no way she could have known, and yet
mhm.
that presence was in that house.
That is so beautiful, and what a gift to your daughter that she could share it with you, and you were able to not only receive it, but encourage it and validate it.
Yeah. I mean, we were all I mean, everybody was just like, "Oh my god." I mean, everybody was like, "Oh, holy cow." So, I mean, so these miracles we know happen.
Yes.
Um, but let's talk a little bit about, what was it that then you've written other books. What was it that really came through? And again, I always think, this is a really important time.
Yes.
And it was an important time when you got the download, the knowingness to write your angelic ancestry.
Mhm.
Talk about that, if you would.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I got the calling to write it about 20 years ago. And then it was like, well, how do you put in at that time it was 15 years of professional work. How do you put in 20 how do you put a like how do you and that was going to be a 1,000-page book. And I started teaching classes and now several hundred classes and I'm like, okay, I'll just transcribe, but it just became too overwhelming. And I'm a doer, you can't be from a half Indian family, from my father's side, all Indian family and, type AAA and not be a doer, and yet I could not get myself to write the book, and, then it was time. Then it was time and a portal opened, and we are in this miraculous time now, metaphysically and karmically,
Mm.
astrologically, all kinds of confluence that suggest that this time of the angelic and the human realms merging is not only possible, but probable, really inevitable. And that portal just opened about a year and a half ago. So, and my book, by the way, was supposed to publish 2 years ago. Then both my parents died 6 weeks apart, and the Palisades fire happened. So the book kept getting delayed by circumstances beyond my control, and and so it was delayed 2 years exactly. Just to right now, when this portal is more open, it just launched July 21st. And so we are in this incredible time, Stephanie. Like, don't you see that you can talk about things you couldn't have a decade ago or even 5 years ago, and people are open?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I was so lucky on my launch event. I had Sonia Choquette and Andrew Harvey and these teachers who've been doing this for decades, saying the same thing. Sonia was saying, I've been doing this for 50 years and people are moving so much faster now. She's like, I could never talk about this stuff. Now I just talk about it and people are so open. And that's my experience, my own personal experience of like doing a TV show, doing a podcast where I'm like, and obviously we're going to get to what the heck this means, but you're an archangel in the flesh. And then they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm like, are you really? Because I thought that was weird. And they're like, "Well, it is weird, but it makes sense." Do you know? And so people are just so open to these there's a lot of darkness on the planet. It's a little rough around the edges right now. But there's also more light and more reasons to be optimistic and go, "Oh my gosh, we are gonna walk this planet into the light with this critical mass of more and more awakening."
I believe that. I believe that. We're at the tipping point. We really
Yeah.
are, and again, I feel like that's one of the reasons books like this are so important because they propel that consciousness even closer, if you will, to the tipping point. And
Mhm.
and in this book, what becomes so important, if you will, about someone finding out? I mean, what do they find out about their angelic ancestry? Why is that important to us?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. So it's important to us for several reasons. One is, again, this portal is open now. You see, so I'll bottom line this as fast I can, but I'm basically going to greatly oversimplify the cosmos to explain this. Okay, so apologies to the infinite intricacy of existence. But in the beginning of the angelic, which predated the human by trillions of years, very ancient creation.
Mhm.
So God spoke, if you will, and the great archangels were incepted, and through them, archangels, we're talking over millions of years, and through them, angels. So, and then everybody kept evolving. So these angels were born in a collective, as mentioned. They have no free will. These archangels, once they evolved into archangels, they do have free will. Then they're in the individuation into which we're born. And those archangels, in this outrageous act of faith, started incarnating onto the physical levels and Earth. Earth really is, a lot of spiritual masters, teachers will call it a latter day experiment. You can kind of feel that. We're figuring things out as we go here, right? It's new. It's new compared to the ancient angelic realm. It's even new compared to, say, Venus or these other planets. So these angels started incarnated onto Earth to experience free will, get a crash course in it. Like, well, if you survive this, then you'll understand free will more. And also to help our planet evolve.
Yeah.
The angels never forget God. This is again a shortcut to God consciousness. But we had to forget. We had to forget the angelic, which is basically heaven, where some of the religions will call heaven. We had to forget it because otherwise we wouldn't engage here with these body things that age and die and get sick and etc. And so we had to forget it, but now we're in this wondrous time where, again, this portal's been open, so now we can start remembering it. But at first, subconsciously, and that's where you get these kids who are having a hard time existing, and you get, you know, these people going with this holy ache. Like, I know there's more to me. I know there's more, but I don't know what that is. But they're sensing it. And then when they bring their angelic ancestry conscious, then there's this profound relief, and it moves very rapidly. Once they start opening, going, oh, okay, let me accept this out there idea that I was an archangel, but it's really, once you get used to it, it's very normal. It's very ordinary, right? And when you open to your archangelic, it's really archangelic. The book was called Your Archangelic Ancestry, but nobody can say archangelic, apparently. I changed it to Your Angelic Ancestry. So once you start to open to that, then it's not to go back there and squeeze into your pastel robes and praise God, whom you never forgot. It's to bring that present into this level. And now you're open to all the gifts that we mean when we say someone's an angel. You're now service oriented, compassionate, beautiful, connected to God, grace filled, etc. So you bring present all the gifts of the angelic into this level. You start to relate beyond time and space. You are more cognizant of the light around things and the light, especially within others. When you recall your archangelic name, angels have one name, which is something we'll go into later if we have time. You can start to open to the presence of the angelic realm, which is where God, spirit, the divine is so imbued. So really you're not to get religious, but you're bringing heaven on earth. You're bringing higher consciousness into this level. Your life starts to become more magical and synchronous and miraculous.
Wow. And so I wanna make sure I'm hearing this right for the listeners as well.
I did
So
kind of gloss over that, didn't I?
no, 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 but I think that so it's that literally everyone here on earth is an angel?
Not everyone, but
Okay.
almost everyone. That realm is so profuse, so meaning there's so many angels, septillion, the biggest number you can imagine, right? We have what, about 8.5 billion people on the planet. They have millions of billions of angels, right? So it's very likely if you're on Earth, you at least had a field trip in the angelic, if not spent many lifetimes there. So most of us, absolutely. Are there a few who have only gone through the human? Very few for that. Are there a few who've only been in the physical realms or other realms? A few, but those would be generally the newer souls. So most, a vast majority, I would say about 95% of people on Earth have been in the angelic, and are. And here's the outrageous part: is you have to have been at least a newly minted, barely hovering above the ground, maybe archangel, to exist in the body. Why? Because we have free will. Remember, they evolved with free will over millions of lifetimes. So if you threw an angel in here where they're looking for that convenient archangel above to disseminate the will of God, they'd be pretty lost here. So you've got to have been an archangel, which is awesome. And there are lots of archangels. There are very few great archangels. So there's probably about 1 trillion archangels. There's only 144 that I've seen in 35 years. Great archangels. Those are those barely, they're basically God, but with individuation. So barely individuated, very high beings. So Some we know, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and then there's others where they've been serving in relative anonymity until now, but I have heard their name in the angelic. So I also share about those in Your Angelic Ancestry as well. So it's really like open to your angelic heritage, your archangelic heritage, work with the great archangels, hang out with your guardian angel here and there to kind of jumpstart you into the angelic, and be rooted and grounded as a sovereign human being who just happens to have this angelic shortcut.
It's so wonderful. It's so there's times where you were saying things and I would just I call 'em my truth bumps,
Ooh,
I would just get chills, with what you were saying, and and it makes me think of I shared with you before we got on the interview that I have a brand new granddaughter.
yes, congratulations.
Thank
What's her
you,
name?
thank you. Sophia Charlotte.
Oh, love that name.
Yeah, and I love it that Sophia is wisdom,
Yes.
and from the moment that she came in, I was so clear that she was an old soul,
Yeah.
and it's that thing that you can look in certain babies' eyes, and it's just like she's like, "Oh, yeah, this isn't my first time around," It
Yep.
just
I'm going to be enlightening people and, want to.
well, and does have that angelic
Yeah.
presence. I mean, she's
Yeah.
just pure essence.
Mm.
So, yeah, I mean, I really feel this, and so if again, so the question for me is if we are most of us archangels,
Mhm.
then we have a direct connection to the divine.
1,000,000%. I mean, humans too. We all have a direct connection to the divine. Most of us are not aware of it. We're all connected to our soul. All. I mean, there were a few examples, Hitler,
Yeah.
that didn't have a soul. But we all have a soul. We all have a spark. We're all connected to God. It's and so this connecting to our angelic ancestry just helps us remember that much more easily.
Mm, yes. Well, and as you know, so often people are searching for that sense of purpose. Like, why are we here? Like, what is this all about? And
Well,
at least, what would
I
you tell them?
I will answer that, but then I'm going to ask you the same question.
Okay.
Okay, because you're Sophia's grandmother, and I love that Sophia also means the divine feminine.
I love it. Yes.
It's
Yes.
just the best name. I need to get some votes in my grandkids' names. I don't have any grandkids yet, but as mentioned, if I don't get grandkids, there is gonna be some issues there. Um, so, um, one of my sons said, "Get some puppies." Not the same.
Not quite the same. Yeah.
Not the same. So, in in my experience, we are here to wake up,
Mm.
right? So it's as if, and again, oversimplifying the cosmos, it's as if God, spirit spoke and creation exhaled and creation was uttered for us. And then in the next breath, exhaled us souls to know its creation through us. And then this wild act of optimism endowed humans with free will, right? I mean, that's quite a gift and quite an act of faith on God's part. And so that we then experience all of this creation for God as God and remember it back to God, bring all of our experiences back to God. So, very simply, but darn sure not easy, our purpose is to wake up to our divinity and to wake up in such a way that we never forget. And then to forget that reference point and keep going into higher and higher levels of awakening. And then you get to rest on your spiritual laurels for 4.2 seconds. And then you become a teacher and a demonstrator, a model for others. You see these people who have this beautiful awakening and like Sophia, they awaken others around them, and some may speak, and some may do it in a more public way, and others will just sit in the presence of that and radiate it into the world. So this planet becomes, mm, and this is so far surpasses any particular religion, but becomes Christed, which is another way of saying we work out our karma under grace instead of law. And so we lift together into the Aquarian age, which is the age of we. And by the way, the sign of Aquarius is angels. So
Oh, I love
better to usher us into the Aquarian age, which is a collective, which is the age of we rather than me, like the Piscean age, than angels that help us know the oneness.
love
Okay,
that.
your turn. Why are we here?
So it's interesting, really quick, a quick note, because
Yes.
when you just said that, it reminded me of, did you ever see the film The Moses Code?
No, but I'm
Back
writing
in
it
the
down.
day. It's back in the day,
Okay.
but it's great, and, at one point, it's got a whole bunch of different speakers that you'll recognize, a lot of A-listers, but I bring it
Um,
up for this reason. You'll recognize how antiquated it is by the fact that you used to be able to rent the DVDs, and one of the DVDs it was the outtakes, kind of
oh,
the
fun.
really neat extras from this film.
Yeah.
Well, one of those scenes was this panel of people they had, and Michael Bernard Beckwith was on
Yeah.
that panel.
Yeah.
And someone says to him, "Well, what do you think the second coming, about the second coming of Christ?"
Mhm.
And I loved his answer, and it has stuck with me all these years. He says to this person, "The second coming of Christ is coming as a consciousness,
Mm,
not as a person."
yes.
And so when you were saying that, Alicia, it was just, resonating with me so much that that's where we are, attaining that sense. And again, this is not about religion. It's about that sense of Christ consciousness where we're aware that we all are connected, that we are not separate from source, that we are that.
Yes.
And I would say personally for me, I mean, that's why my brand forever has been the spark, because to me that is that divine spark with
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
of us.
igniting the spark too.
Yeah, yes, and that's what we're doing here, hopefully helping other people to recognize, like, this is not just, people that have a platform or people that are published and people that have, a 1,000,000,000 followers. No, this is about the message getting out there that each one of us has this divine spark within us, and I wholeheartedly agree with you that I do think and I feel like I have had so many dreams and downloads, and I write about this in my book, but it is too, to awaken to that oneness, that we are not separate from that,
No.
that we are it.
Yes.
And one of the images that was given to me through a dream, first of all, I was laughing in this dream hysterically because I had this awareness in the dream of the duality of first of all, the duality we live in, and then the illusion of separation. And how it's so funny that we even experience ourselves as different from source or even different from each other, because truly in that, spark space, if you will, like, we're all connected, we're all one. And the other thing that came to me that was speaking to this thing that we're talking about, this awakening and us being really aware of our interconnectedness, was the image of a beehive, and
Oh,
how oftentimes someone will feel like they're in a singular cell of that beehive
yeah.
and that they're isolated and alone. And then the reality comes in that if just one bee starts flapping its wings, starts moving its wings, that vibration is felt by the entire hive, and how incredibly important each and every bee is to the existence of that hive, and how we are all essential parts of this experience that's happening. And so when we, I think, realize that we're inextricably
Mm.
connected to this and to our sparks, then we do begin to awaken. And one of the phrases on my first film, which was "when sparks ignite," is we never know the sparks we're going to ignite in another. And to me, that spark is that, just what you spoke of. It's that awareness, that awakening, that lives within each one of us. And it can get covered up with situations and circumstances. And so for me, I feel like our work is how, we are all conduits of this love and light coming to us and through us. So if we notice these cobwebs that are limiting beliefs or behaviors or whatever they are, it's just a process of, let's keep cleaning out the cobwebs so we can all be clear conduits for one another.
Absolutely. I think that was so beautifully said. And also that the bees, yes, they're in a collective like angels, by the way. you know? And the bees are also not separate from us. Our survival depends on the bees, which I remind myself when I'm out on I wrote most of my book on the balcony because I needed it to be informed by nature. And I have 6 hummingbird feeders. And, I would get annoyed because the bees would come and, they'd wanna and sometimes they'd swarm, but I would have to and I would notice that they would reflect my consciousness because if I was annoyed, they would sting me,
Uh,
and if I just went, "Okay, we're all one," and I would just talk to them and go, "Okay, my dears, if you keep swarming like this, I'm gonna have to take down the feeders and nobody's gonna get to eat because I would be annoyed because they would chase off the hummingbirds because
oh, yes.
hundreds of them, you know? And, um, and so when I would just talk to them from a peaceful place, not always did it work, but often it
Yeah.
did. And that's that awareness that we are not separate from the bees and the trees and and air. It's all God's breath.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. That's it. That's it. And so I know that our time is running short and we have to wrap up and we could continue this conversation for at least a few more hours.
Easily.
This is it's such a joy and a delight to talk with you, and I know that there's so much more to come out, and to share, and maybe at another time you can come back on the podcast. I would love to have you back.
I would
Um,
love to.
Thank you. Well, and so how do people find out more about you, and where can they get the book?
Well, thank you for asking. So the book Your Angelic Ancestry, by Alicia Doss, and everywhere books are found. It's distributed by Penguin Random House, so easy to find. And I actually love supporting local bookstores. So you could go into your local bookstore and just ask for a copy of it. If they don't have it, every bookstore on the planet has a Penguin Random House rep. They can get it for you. And also, it's available on Amazon, of course, everywhere. And my website is my name, Alicia Doss, ALISHADAS.com. You can get the book there. And then I'm about to do actually 3 classes for people who bought 4 books that are free, just helping take them through the book. Um, and those are going to start in a few weeks. So it'll be a good time to get the books. And if you get the book on my website, then you can join those classes. There's other bonuses and I'm on all the socials just under my name.
Wonderful, wonderful. Love this. Well, and as we're wrapping up, Alicia, what is an essential message, if we haven't spoken about it, that you want to make sure is being shared with the listeners today?
Would it be okay if the angels give you that message?
Love that. Yep.
So this would be from the angelic language. I'm not going to share the angelic language out loud because if someone's driving,
Yeah.
it can it can take people out of their bodies. But closer than your next thought, more intimate than breath, more jubilant than gazing into the eyes of one you love, is your soul, is the spark. And how do we ignite our awareness of that spark? By being fearless or by being fearful and then courageous and opening to the presence of the divine, of God, of the infinite right here in this space, right here in this moment. You don't have time. You think you do, but it's a thought. You don't have the space to tarry any longer. You see, the light will out, but it needs you. The light of spirit needs you. Yes, you. Yes, we are talking to you. To awaken to the fact that you were born the beloved. You don't need fixing. You don't need to be worthy. You don't need to accomplish one more thing. You don't need to hold back or push forward. You need to step back, open and surrender to the truth that you can be trusted with magnificence, that you are divine, you are God, you are spirit, you are life, you are the magnificence of nature, you are the truth being told through your experiences. Judge not, tarry not, wait not, for you don't know enough to judge, wait, or tarry. All is present, and that is only the good news of love. Amen, and so be it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like all the light in the room has changed when I opened my eyes. Wow. Yeah, thank you,
My
Alicia. Thank
pleasure.
you for sharing your heart, this beautiful wisdom, and your spark with all of us.
Mm. It's been such a delight, Stephanie, and I hope this is the beginning of many connections with you. And so much love and support to your listeners and to you. And thank you for continuing this for so many years. I know that's not for the faint of heart.
Thank you. Thank you.